Europe is somewhere everyone wants to travel to, and that's understandable because of the incredible history,
the delicious and truly authentic food,
oh my god, food, oh my god, the beautiful architecture,
stunning landscapes, deep and varied culture,
and did we mention the wine? Because there is a lot of delicious and affordable wine.
That being said, Europe tends to be on the pricier side of travel destinations, and it seems to be getting more and more expensive at a pretty fast pace.
Europe can be tricky if you are like us and are budget travelers who want to make your money go as far as possible.
That's why we wanted to make this video, because we've traveled to Europe a fair bit successfully without spending too much money.
Without breaking the bank. And so in this video, we are going to share some of our tips and tricks that we have learned along the way to travel Europe on a budget in 2024. In this video, we'll be covering the best ways to save money in Europe.
We'll also cover the cheapest and most expensive countries we've traveled to in the region.
We'll be covering some of our favorite free activities you can do throughout Europe.
And then when to budget and when to splurge.
All right, let's get started.
Subscribe to follow along.
So we're gonna start with the best ways to save money while you're in Europe, which is probably why you're watching this video. And we have traveled to Europe for quite a bit in 2022 and then also this year, and we have come up with some pretty great ideas or ways at least we can save money and hopefully save you some money. That being said, one thing we have learned while we were traveling is how important your health is.
Yeah, health is number one. If you don't have your health, then you can't travel, you can't do anything.
You just want to stay in bed, you just want to be in your bed at home.
It's not worth traveling if you're not healthy. That being said, the first thing you buy and you need when you travel is travel medical insurance. And we use Safety Wing. It's very affordable. It's one of the most affordable ones in the market. It ends up being a couple bucks a day. You pay as you go, it's subscription based. It covers you in 180 countries.
Which is amazing, so you can be kind of flexible with your travel, and that is most of Europe. We also find it super helpful through experience. If you've watched our videos, you know we have gotten sick throughout our travels.
If you are sick, it can cost a lot of money. I was sick in Istanbul, had a really bad, beef shawarma kebab, and I got sick for a few days, and then I had to go to the hospital, had a translator, an IV, doctor's appointments, medication, antibiotics, even a soup at the hospital. Everything was covered by the insurance. That's one of those things that will provide you like a safety net
while you're traveling. We would totally recommend Safety Wing. We do have a link below if you're interested in getting travel medical insurance.
And again, it's pay as you go and you can cancel anytime.
Our second item about how you're gonna save money when you're traveling to Europe is on flights. Most likely your flight, whether you're coming from Australia or Asia or North America or South America, flights are going to be probably the most expensive getting to Europe.
So an obvious way to save money is to go to Europe during off season. Flights are gonna be significantly cheaper. Going to Europe during off season is going to cost you less than going in the summertime. It won't be as busy as well. It's kind of a nice time to go. November in Canada, not great. Good time to go to Europe though. Same for spring.
Exactly, so that's the first big point. The second point is if, for example, you're a teacher or you have kids that are in school and the only time you can travel is in the summer, there are still ways to make it more affordable. One thing is to be flexible within your time. So if you're looking at dates, we use Google Flights, and it's a great way. It'll show you the days that are cheaper to travel on. If you can extend it by a few days or shorten it by a few days, that is going to help a lot.
And also, we're told, and we've sort of done some research, apparently 3 to 2 months out from your trip is the best time to book your flight. Always checking Google Flights and looking at the price fluctuations and looking at options is something that will help you find the best price and be more budget friendly.
That being said, once you've found it on Google Flights, one thing we always say is book it through the actual airline. So for example, if you found that there's a really good Air Canada flight on Google Flights from August 1st to August 16th, that's great, but then go book it through Air Canada. You're gonna be able to find that flight and that details through the actual airline, and that way you're gonna have the proper cancellation insurance and all that stuff, because sometimes third parties can screw you over.
Yeah, and that can cost a lot of money. All of a sudden it gets canceled or there's additional add-ons and stuff like that. Booking with the airline will be the price. It'll cause you less grief down the road.
So the other thing we wanted to mention that we sometimes use to make flights to Europe cheaper is points.
Yeah, so we use Aeroplan points with Air Canada. We collect those with our credit cards, and we can also transfer them with certain credit card points. For example, AMEX points can be transferred one-to-one to Aeroplan. We can make a video about that down the road if you're interested. It's a whole different sort of like subcategory. But using travel points to reduce the cost of flights can go a long way, can help a lot, especially when these flights are gonna cost a few grand.
The last thing that we want to mention about flights and making it cheaper getting to Europe is carry-on only travel. We are big in the carry-on only travel, and it saves you so much money in terms of checked bags. You always have to pay extra for checked bags. Also, there's where your bags will get lost. We did a whole video on carry-on only travel and how we pack, if that's something you are interested in. But in general, it makes it easier also when you're in Europe, so you're not lugging around a big giant suitcase on cobblestone streets.
Yeah, running around through the city trying to rush to your train or your bus or whatever with a burly suitcase. Backpack's way more handy.
And that's a tip that we love, and
yeah,
it does save us money.
Now, in terms of flights in Europe, you do have to buy a carry-on backpack as an additional component when you're buying a flight with Ryanair, for example. It'll cost you more to have a carry-on, but less than a checked bag.
So you are still saving money because you're gonna need stuff while you're there. And so we find carry-on is a lot cheaper for us.
If you're interested in what we bring and how we pack and what we put in our bag, we use 35-liter backpacks. We've made videos about that. Our link's below if you're interested in that. That's a whole different category though. But carry-on only travel, that's a way to save money.
Another way to save money while you are traveling in Europe is to have a credit card that does not have foreign transaction fees. If you do not know what a foreign transaction fee is when you are charged an amount for converting your currency to the currency you're traveling in. So for example, Canadian dollar to the pound in the UK or to the euro in Spain. That's what a foreign transaction fee is. Look it up in your own country, and this will save you money as you are using your credit card probably every day, all the time.
Yeah, another way of saving money too is reducing the amount of times you go to the ATM. The ATM will cost a lot. So if you do have to go and get cash out, go and get a lump sum and then spread it out within your stuff. Because otherwise it adds up. Always paying with cash, like it costs a lot of money. You're better off paying with a special credit card or with your special debit card or whatever your country has. We don't have Revolut. That's a thing that exists, popular, right? So avoid expensive ATMs. That will blow your budget with fees. You don't want to spend money on fees.
Extra fees you want to avoid, and so sometimes even we'll look up ATMs in an area that have the lowest fee, because that also is a thing. Some ATMs charge more than others, which is kind of wild, but that is a thing. So you're now in Europe, you have travel medical insurance, you've made it here with a good flight. The next big thing that's gonna cost you is accommodations. And our first big tip may work for some, but may not work for some, and that is staying with friends and family. If you have people that you know in Europe and you can stay on their couch or on their floor, that is gonna save you so much money.
Yeah, so it's also a good time, by the way, to reconnect with friends or with family members that you haven't seen in a long time. We love doing that. I used to live in Portugal and I have some friends in Italy, for example, we stayed with, family friends in Scotland. It was a great time to see them, crash on their couch. Don't overstay your welcome.
Like, we love those experiences because it's also a way to see the country with somebody you're close to, but also someone who knows the area and their memories that you're never gonna make anywhere else, and it's amazing.
A quick little tip on this too when it comes to family and friends. If you don't have any friends in Europe or family members, maybe they're traveling there though, and you guys can overlap your trip. So overlapping with other friends that are there. Okay, so aside from that, how else can you save money?
We have never done it before, but a big thing that we've heard from others that they recommend is both couch surfing, house sitting, and pet sitting.
Right.
So those are all ways that you can save money a lot on accommodations. Pet sitting, we've heard really good reviews. We're both allergic to cats, so it's a bit trickier for us.
Yeah.
But that could be something you try.
So hostels, you probably think that that's the cheapest way to do it. Not necessarily true. For two people, 2 hostel beds, single hostel beds in a 12-person dorm room could be the same price as an Airbnb where you have your private space and kitchen and all this stuff.
Or even like a private room in someone's house. We've also done that on Airbnb and it's great. Like we found that a great way and it's usually cheaper.
A private room can be cool because you get to meet a local as well.
So if you are a solo traveler, hostels might be better for you. But if you are someone with a partner or with a group, always look into Airbnbs because oftentimes they might be cheaper than hostels, in Europe at least.
Now overall though, the hack is to look at everything You look at Booking, you look at Airbnb, you look at hostels, you look at hotels, and you sort of compare pricing, truthfully.
Because in different European cities and different places in Europe, the answer is going to be different, honestly. And so you do have to do your research, and that's a big takeaway, is do your research in terms of what's going to be the cheapest.
Yeah, we're always comparing things. That's why it takes a long time to book accommodations and to figure that out. That's just the truth. That's just how it is.
But it's worth it because you do save money.
Yeah, and you want to pick a good spot, obviously. When it comes to hotels, you can use hotel points.
Woo!
Right?
We love hotel points, and we have stayed in some places we couldn't usually afford if it weren't for points.
And it's a good way, say you're interested in going to Northern Europe. We stayed in Berlin using hotel points, for example, because it was like 250 euros or so for, per night. And so when you use hotel points strategically, you can also save money when it would be otherwise quite expensive.
Exactly. We use MARRIOTT Bonvoy credit cards, and that's how we gain our points. And there is a really awesome sign-up bonus. So what that means is if you spend the amount of money in the first 3 months, you get all these extra points, and then these extra points you can use in Europe. So we had friends of ours who used our sign-up link, got the MARRIOTT Bonvoy credit card, and then went to Europe and got 5 nights for free using the points in, I believe they did it in Ireland, which is amazing.
Yeah, it's worth it. You get 1 night free as well when you sign up with the MARRIOTT Bonvoy card.
Each year.
So like I said, we collect points with American Express. You can also transfer those not only to airlines like we mentioned before, but also to MARRIOTT Bonvoy. And so we're sort of using the point systems to reduce costs of hotel rooms that are usually expensive.
So points is a huge thing. Again, if you're interested in more, let us know. Maybe we can make a video on that.
We do have our credit card links below if you're interested.
Or if you have any questions, feel free to comment them below, and we'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Another quick bullet point is staying in a smaller town in Europe off the beaten path. It can be quite a bit less expensive than staying in a big city. You can always commute or travel to the bigger city or the bigger popular destination from that smaller area, that smaller town. It can be more authentic, more interesting. I personally like it more.
Yeah, we like the quieter vibes, so it's really nice for us. That being said, we also want to say, whether it's a hotel room or an Airbnb or any kind of accommodation, if you're like us and are big coffee drinkers, having a coffee machine in your room or accommodation can save you a lot of money.
Yeah, going out for a coffee every morning, it adds up to 5 euros or 6 or whatever it is, 10 bucks every time. That adds up.
That adds up a lot.
Speaking of having things in your accommodation, a kitchen. We're looking for kitchens in our hostels, in our Airbnbs. The reason is because we can cook for ourselves. If you can cook for yourself, you will save money. That's the next category, food.
So much money will be saved on food. Restaurants are incredible, and obviously you want to try all the incredible European cuisines, which we're not saying don't do, but we're saying
definitely do it.
Maybe go out for dinner once while you're in a place, but the rest of the time, buy groceries and cook your own food. Europe specifically, we found, has incredible grocery stores.
Yeah.
We love European grocery stores.
It's a lot of fun to go to grocery stores. You can see the local products, you can see how what people actually buy that are from there. They're pretty affordable, and then you can make it at home yourself. Grocery stores we love are Lidl and Aldi. Very affordable, very fun.
Kind of all over Europe too.
Yeah, it's a fun trip, and cooking for yourself doesn't need to be a negative thing. It can be a fun thing. We make date nights out of it. We can adventure with different ingredients.
We try and still make the local cuisine ourselves, which is a lot of fun.
And this is all not to say that we don't eat out. We still do, but we limit that amount.
You try and balance it a bit. The other thing you can do is, if you're in a city for a day, a really good way to save money is buy groceries for lunch and then have a picnic in a park. You'll get a really local experience. You get to still be outside, you get to eat delicious produce, and it's a lot cheaper than going to a restaurant for lunch.
If you're like us, the situation would be, we have our day bags, microfiber towel, throw it in the grass, pull out our Tupperwares, we have our lunch, we have everything we need, and we have a cheap lunch. So we're back on the move, because why would you spend money when you don't really need to? You can have a cheap lunch.
Yeah, you'll have like the local cheese, the local meat,
sandwich or whatever it
vegetables,
is, or pad thai, the Tupperware.
Yeah, whatever it is. So going off that, the other thing that's going to save you a lot of money is on alcohol. If you're someone who likes to drink, as you know, people love to indulge in Europe.
It's part of the culture.
There's incredible wine, there's incredible beer, and that's not saying don't drink while you're there. Obviously, if you don't drink, that will save you money, but obviously you want to try the delicious wine, and we will say, if you can, buy it at a grocery store.
Lidl and Aldi have booze, and it's cheap.
And it's delicious. It's
I always
amazing
buy
wine.
the local beers, we buy the local wines, and we can drink them in our accommodation. It's no problem. It saves you a lot of money. Going to a bar and spending €5 on a glass of wine when you can buy a bottle for $3, I don't know, is it worth it?
Yeah, and that's up to
Depends.
you. And the other thing is look it up ahead of time, but a lot of cities in Europe, you can actually drink in the park. And so then you're outside in the beautiful environment, having a little glass of wine. It's a ton of fun where you're having a beer.
Yeah.
We would recommend, again, look up where you can do this if there are places you can't.
Versus, you know, going to a bar and paying extra money. Now, that can be fun, and that has its place. It's worth doing. And obviously we can get to that when it comes to when to splurge, but it's really about being intentional.
With when you spend money on alcohol, when you drink, when you don't drink, etc. If you do want to save money when you're traveling, it is something you need to consider.
Next category.
Public transportation!
Public transportation in Europe is amazing. You can get anywhere with trams and buses and metros, and usually it's just a phone tap, a credit card tap.
It's so much cheaper than maybe honestly renting a car or Ubering around. It's super easy to do. It is the affordable way to travel within cities, or like he said, you're staying in a smaller town outside a city and coming in. Now, in terms of traveling between countries, because as you know, Europe, you can travel to a bunch of different countries while you're there. We have found that depending, it's again, same with accommodations, you have to research what the cheapest way to get around is. It's either gonna be by bus, by train, and even by flight.
Yeah, generally the trains are expensive, and getting the Eurorail pass is possible, but it hasn't really worked out for us. It wasn't really worthwhile. It's quite expensive. Busing with Flixbus is really affordable. Ryanair, very affordable as well, especially if you're carry-on only travel like us, like we mentioned. So generally, yeah, take a bus. It's easy, it's simple. Everything's pretty close.
The other thing we want to mention is something called BlaBlaCar. We used that a few times when we were in France, and it's a really great way to save money. It's better for the environment. It's pretty much like a carpool service. So if someone is driving from point A to point B anyways, they'll put it up on BlaBlaCar and you can jump in their car for a small fee and then you go together to that place. We have done it. It was very successful. We felt very safe. And we would recommend it for maybe small towns, because honestly why we ended up doing it was because there was no bus from this little town to this little town, but a BlaBlaCar worked.
Now, one big and major final bullet point here for Europe and getting around is walking. Walking is so simple in Europe. It's healthy, it's easy, it's fun, everything's so close. We don't mind walking for half an hour into town, to a grocery store, because it's kind of nice.
And you're looking at beautiful architecture or beautiful trees or buildings.
Walk.
Just walk.
Walk
it's good
around.
exercise. It's great. Walk. We are now going to move on to countries that we have been to that are the most expensive versus most affordable in Europe. I want to start by prefacing that we have purposely not gone to the most expensive countries in Europe because we are budget travelers and can't afford them.
Right, so obviously the north is more expensive than the south. As budget travelers, the trick is travel more to affordable countries and then dip your toe in the north a little bit in more expensive countries and then go back to the south.
And maybe you didn't know that, but that generally is
Along
the
those lines.
consensus that the south is cheaper than the northern
But
countries.
not always. I'll get there, but some countries in the east are obviously more affordable than some in the west. The most expensive countries we've been to are Ireland, UK, Netherlands, Belgium, France, Germany as well, Northern Italy.
All countries we have truly loved.
Amazing,
And
so worth it.
would totally recommend going to, but in general,
Just more expensive.
they have been more expensive.
The more affordable countries we've been to are Turkey, Greece, Spain, Portugal, Slovakia, Czechia, and Poland. Those countries are really nice and they're just a little bit more affordable than the other ones I listed that we've been to before.
We would totally recommend, honestly, all the countries, and if you are interested in going to any of those countries, we do have videos from all of those places, so you can check those out on our channel. The next category we're going to talk about is the best free activities we have found that you can do pretty much in any country in Europe. And so the first one is free walking tours. So this is a really great way to see the architecture, the history of a place, and get to know a new city. Now that being said, even though they are called free walking tours, they are not free. You are supposed to tip the guide at the end of the tour, but it is still a really great price and something we would totally recommend
Definitely
doing.
affordable. Something that generally is free though, and that I love doing, is hiking to a lookout. Now you get to see the view of the city, you get to see the lay of the land, and it's just kind of a nice activity. It's always going to be affordable.
Whether that's outside on a beautiful hike looking over a city, or we've also found ways in cities like going to free malls and the roof of a mall. For example, in Paris we did that.
Free lookouts.
And usually we're able to find them. We would recommend blogs, like look up free lookout in a city, you'll be able to find it.
And generally, sites in the city, like buildings or parks, are going to be free. You can walk there and you can see these sites and you can learn about them yourselves on Wikipedia or with YouTube videos, informational videos about the city. And you can do your own walking tour in that sense.
The other thing is like local markets. Look up the days that you're there, what days markets are open, or if there's different festivals while you were there, that kind of thing, because it's a really great way to see the local culture, and it's usually free to just walk around and experience.
Yeah, seeing the local markets just in action is always a beautiful thing.
The next thing that we want to mention is museums. So a lot of museums in Europe will cost money, but if you look ahead of time, there's usually one day a month that's free. So if you're really into museums and want to see a free museum, look that up because you could be there for a free day. The other thing is the UK specifically, museums are free for the most part.
That's pretty cool.
We went to so many museums when we were in the UK and we were so impressed by how amazing they were, and they didn't cost any money.
And depending how much time you have, you can always buy passes as well. Sometimes it's a pass for a bunch of museums that you can visit in 5 days or 3 days. Sometimes it includes public transit as well, depending. But I'd say look into passes that are sort of grouped together for all the different sites in the area. Another activity that you know we love doing is going around and trying little delicacies, local cuisine from different areas that adds up to being a small amount versus, you know, a bunch of big meals everywhere. You know, having a pastry over here and like some fries over here, a little bit of a, you know, little wine or something.
Chocolate or that kind of thing. So those are kind of the free activities that we love to do in a city. If you have any other ideas, we'd love to hear them in the comments below, because as you know, if you've watched our videos, we do just love seeing a city and seeing it as cheaply or as affordably as we can. Now that being said, we are going to now move on to our next section, which is how to decide what to splurge on versus what to budget on, because sometimes it is totally worth it to pay for certain activities. You're in Europe, there are certain things you're gonna wanna see.
So obviously this is a very personal question. How much time do you have? What's your budget? How badly do you want to do these activities? If there's something that you've been thinking about doing for a long time, you should probably do it.
What means a lot to you? Exactly. So for us, that usually means trying the local cuisine. So we did talk about how we will go to the grocery stores a lot, but we will try and eat out at least once to really get a taste of the local cuisine and what is offered in that city or that country.
Even if it is expensive, generally, it's sort of worth it. You can really...
For us, because we love food.
You can also find more affordable restaurants to go to. You don't need to go to the highest end place. You know, you
do your research.
Do your research and find a really good, affordable, local joint. Right?
And going back to alcohol, as we mentioned, that is sometimes something we will splurge on if we're with friends and they want to show us an awesome local pub or a bar. Going out for drinks sometimes can be a nice way to splurge and enjoy the atmosphere that you're in. Don't make it an all the time thing, but it can be something small that you splurge on.
For us personally, because this is a personal subject, spending money on sort of like highly touristy activities that aren't very long is hard for us to justify. Right? So if it's hard for us, if it's even questionable for us to justify it, we usually step away and do something else.
But that being said, sometimes we will splurge on things. Like we did a food tour in Portugal. That was amazing.
It was phenomenal.
It was amazing, and we got to learn all this information we wouldn't have known if we hadn't done the food tour.
If there's something you've thought about doing in a city, say the Guinness factory tour, which is more touristy, more expensive, but you've been thinking about it for a long time, you should probably do it. If you don't do it, you'll feel bad, you'll miss out, you'll have some FOMO. Do the things you've been thinking about doing
that you want to do, not the rest of the world wants to do.
Yeah, right, and we also have to pick, right? So there's the Guinness factory, there's also the Jameson factory. So we could have done both, but, you know, which one did I care about the most?
Exactly. So again, it's kind of, make sure you spend time thinking about it, because we're not saying don't spend money on activities. This is your vacation, or maybe you're long-term traveling. If you're long-term traveling, it is a different story because you're trying to make your money go as long as possible. But if you're on vacation and these are activities you want to do, we're not saying don't do them.
Do the things that you want to do.
And don't Don't let society tell you what you want to do. Do what interests you.
Yeah. All right, so hopefully we brought up a bunch of good points here in this video about how to travel on a budget in Europe. I know we've been able to do it with all these things that we've gathered, all this information we've sort of collected over the last few years. First thing being, again, reiterating, travel medical insurance. You do not want to be stuck in a situation where it costs an arm and a leg
to get healthy.
Get healthy again.
Your health is the most important thing.
We use Safe Doing, our links below, by the way. The other thing is flights. Save money on flights, go off season, be flexible with your time, checking Google Flights, and then using carry-ons. Carry-ons to...
You can travel carry-on only.
To save money on that checked luggage.
It would help. The next thing would be accommodations. If you have friends or family you can stay with, obviously that's going to be the biggest way to save money.
Yeah.
If not, do your research and be flexible, whether you're staying in a hostel, an Airbnb, a hotel. Use points.
Using points as well. Staying in a smaller town when you can, because it could be less expensive there as well. And then making sure there's a kitchen so that you can make your own food. Avoiding going to restaurants, right? Being intentional with that.
With when you go out to eat. And when you cook, remember, you can cook local cuisines. You can eat the local produce.
Yeah.
You can buy wine at the grocery store if you want to drink wine or beer. If you do want to go out, again, be intentional when you go out for a drink or for food.
And when you go, walk around. Europe is walkable, right? Use public transit as well when you can or when you need to. It's very affordable, it's very easy.
It's amazing. The public transit is awesome, so use it.
Ryanair is a very affordable airline. You can get around Europe pretty well with that. Being flexible again will let you
with the dates
pick your dates better. Take a bus, take buses, trains, all these things. Well, actually, trains are expensive.
Yeah, trains can be expensive, but again, that's why you weigh your options. Traveling is work, people. You do need to do your research, but if you do your research, you can do it affordably.
Yeah, you gotta weigh your options. And using points, we mentioned points for accommodations, points for airlines. Leverage those points. Collect those points with your credit cards. Leverage those when you can.
If you really want to travel for a long period of time, go to the more affordable countries in general.
That will very much stretch your budget out.
If you want to travel for
longer. If you do want to go to the more expensive countries, go for less time and then go back to the more affordable ones.
The free activities that we mentioned, one thing we want to say is always look up blog posts for the area because there might be certain free activities in certain cities or at certain times of year. Decide what you want to spend your money on and where to splurge and where not to splurge. If you are really into museums and you want to spend money on museums, do it.
If this is something that you'd regret missing, then obviously you should do that. Be intentional.
If you're doing it because you saw everybody on social media doing it, but you're not really interested, maybe that's not what you spend your money on.
So I hope all these points are going to help you with your trip to Europe and hopefully
save you maybe a little bit of money.
Save you some money.
We hope you enjoyed this video, and if you haven't subscribed, that you subscribe because we have more fun videos to come and more traveling. So we'll
Thank you.
See you in our next video. Go ahead.
You can say see you in the next video.
No, go ahead.
So thank you so much for watching.
And